The Naked Gun was released in theaters, and as a fan of the original films, I was so excited to have a big studio comedy in theaters. The Naked Gun movies were a huge part of my life growing up, and would probably be one of the most important comedies as far as shaping my sense of humor. Back then was a golden age of comedy, in movies and TV, when you had new comedy movies coming out all the time. No time to get forlorn for the good old days, deep in the middle of the terrible new days, because we have a brand new Naked Gun movie to add to the franchise, and this one stars Liam Neeson. I knew the sensibility would be just right when, during an early heist, we see someone steal a generic electronic gadget and the label said plot device. Oftentimes, in zany screwball comedies, the plot is not the point, it is reason for happening, not a reason for being. This movie, the plot is good, uh, better than it had to be, and still they make jokes downplaying it for laughs. For sure, the tone was right. To some, the idea of Liam Neeson being the lead of a comedy seems out of place, but he had two pitch perfect comedy moments that work perfectly in the world of The Naked Gun. First being the Tricks is for Kid bit in Ted 2, and the second being the hilarious scene in Life's Too Short. Both showed that he could be hilarious for being serious, and that's largely the gag with Naked Gun. Leslie Nielsen was so dry and played it so straight, and at the same time had one of the finest senses of comedic timing the world had ever seen. In this way, Liam has carried the torch for the franchise. He plays it stone serious the whole time, and the flick is funnier because of it. The one noted difference between Liam Neeson and Leslie Nielsen is that this is the first time leading a comedy for Liam, and Leslie did it 1,000 times. It must be extremely hard for Liam Neeson to know that the movie is a comedy and resist the urge to do anything funny. But from time to time, you can see it, an urge being resisted. It was an exceptionally good job, though. He had me laughing the whole time. Maybe if there were more big studio comedies, this wouldn't be a problem. Pamela Anderson stars across from Liam, and she does a great job as well. There are some moments that she really gets to shine comedically all on her own, but most of the movie is very deadpan. She is having a real moment right now between The Doc and The Last Showgirl. She has never been as in demand for her acting, and she keeps it going in this one. I think this is the best performance I've seen from her, but the problem is that she was never really the type of actor who could disappear in a role. I didn't see The Last Showgirl, but it got some Oscar buzz, so I'm sure she is finding this part of herself later in her career. On top of that, she has great chemistry with Liam Neeson, and I like that they were able to find an actress who was reasonably aged to match with him. All that said, I think if there was an opportunity to upgrade the movie, it would have been there. And the only reason I say that is because part of why Neeson works so well is because he's a serious character and has silly things happen around him. And Pamela doesn't have that same gravitas. I love the casting of Paul Walter Hauser and CCH Pounder in their roles. Both are incredibly funny just naturally. And I think the Chief's husband bit is my favorite part of the movie. I thought Danny Houston did a good job, but his character was probably the hardest to get right, which gave the role a more complicated approach. He definitely felt like more of a composite of a bunch of different sources, and sometimes it just felt like friction. It definitely worked more than it didn't. As far as screen time and things to do, those five take up most of the movie, but I thought everyone else did a fine job sort of holding the world together nicely. Lisa Koji seemed to stand out the most. She was a little bit more dramatic, and it worked well for her in this. The only question I have is Cody Rhodes, because he seemed too recognizable a face to not do something that ties to his fame. I mean, I no longer watch WWE like that, but I know who Cody Rhodes is, and I wouldn't say, even if most people don't know his name or anything, they would still recognize him as a professional wrestler. So when I see him and I say, oh, what's Cody Rhodes doing here? And then you have him do a role that anyone could have played is confusing to me. To keep it in wrestling, Macho Man Randy Savage was the wrestler with Peter Parker in the original Spider-Man. It makes sense to see him there because people who know him get excited and he does what he is known for. I don't know. I really can't explain it. Overall, I think Akiva Schaffer did a good job as writer and director on this movie. The movie was also written by Dan Gregory and Doug Mand. These guys are all great comedy minds, and they did a great job staying within the world of the movie, which is always tough for comedy, especially when it's slapstick, because it can get out of hand. Is it funny? Is it as funny as Naked Gun? Is it as funny as this movie or that movie? In short, I would say yes, it's funny. I laughed consistently. I had hard laughs. I had subtle laughs. And I never got tired of what I was getting. It was wonderfully consistent until the very end. If there was anything that was missing for me, it was that this movie doesn't really have that one scene that stands out from the rest for being the funniest scene. I know I rate the movies around here, and often I compare one thing to another, but the hope is that I'm giving you perspective and comparison and history. This is a good movie for the Naked Gun. It's not the cosmic stardust that is the original Naked Gun movie, and it's not fair to compare them. Before Naked Gun, it was a TV show that got canceled called Police Squad. A lot of people say that Police Squad had the same feel as the Naked Gun. It was never appreciated. It was too visual to work on TV. No matter what the reason, they had a chance to test the show in front of an audience and then apply what works to it to a more captive audience. It's like how LeBron James used to talk about playing football too, and it was talked about on sports radio ad nauseum. The original Naked Gun is LeBron playing basketball. He's practiced, he knows the rules, he has worked out the muscles that he needs to be successful. LeBron's first game playing football is never going to be the best version of that experiment, and people know how good he is at basketball and will always compare the two, and it's not the same thing. I think this movie is a difficult thing to write well, and it takes people who know what they are doing, and the movie accomplishes that. The problem, forever and always, is that comedy is harder to write, and the things that separate an all-time classic and an all-time bomb can be razor thin. And a big studio comedy of today, everything being funny and working the whole time is enough. That being said, I do have a couple small points if they hopefully let you do this again. I'll keep my points to the opening scene since it has been covered in the trailer extensively, and I think it speaks to the same issues you've seen later. First, I know Liam Neeson has spoken about walking away from action movies due to his age. I do think we could see signs of it in this movie as well, and it didn't look great, and the edit didn't hide it that much. Second, we had two different gags where the point is it's supposed to be ridiculous, but both are just too ridiculous. Liam Neeson going from girl to man doesn't make any sense in full context, and there is another moment where someone gets kicked and flies back 30 feet, both of which just missed the mark. I know that we had gags in previous iterations, but usually the exaggerated action was to make a joke funnier over being the joke. And I think there's a difference between kicking someone and they go way too far and sliding across a banquet table between the queen's legs way too far. Lastly, there's a moment where a bad guy gets slammed and there is a digital camera effect where it makes look like the whole building was shaking, and I don't think that was needed. Overall, the movie looks great. It's edited well, and there are moments like the ones that I mentioned that could have just been improved upon. Any problem with The Naked Gun or any comedy is that there are not enough of these movies being released. Comedy is a numbers game. The more times you do it, the more chances you have to be hits. If there are no silly comedies for months and then one gets released, it puts a lot of pressure on that movie to be the funniest thing because it's one of so few. If there were 20 comedies a year, a few would be big hits, I promise you. All you need to do is give a small or modest amount of money to the funniest people you can find and tell them to make a movie. Take 1988, the year The Naked Gun was released. That year, we had Beetlejuice, A Fish Called Wanda, Big, Coming to America, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, Hairspray, The Great Outdoors, Twins, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and my personal favorite, Bull Durham. None of them are the same type of comedy as Naked Gun, but they are all comedic, and the number of hits is because of the number of swings. Outside of A24, almost all the comedies released this year have been streaming movies. I'm not against streaming, but I don't watch it the same way as I watch a movie in theaters, and it's harder for the comedy to hit because of it. I put on Happy Gilmore 2 with my wife. We watch 20 to 30 minutes and she falls asleep. Now we split the movie over 2 or 3 sessions. It's never going to be the same as a movie I watch in a movie theater. There is no chance. That being said, I would be happy if they wanted to give us more Naked Gun movies. And if there is a subsect of the comedy market that is the IP play, that is fine. But what needs to happen generally is that all the studios need to put aside a set budget for big studio comedies and sprinkle that money over 4 or more movies every year. Quarterly, there should be a comedy from every studio. In time, the money you spend on the comedy slate will be made whole with a big success. We have a snake eating its tail thing going on here where they don't make comedies because they don't make money, but they don't make them often enough for the comedies to have a chance of making money. Studios will tell you they had a thriving DVD market, which is true, but at the same time, the comedies they went with were either purchased or IP, and the number went down substantially. Comedies are like minor league baseball players. You spread a bunch of money across a wide swath of players because one of them will become a star, and the value of that star for the money spent is worth it. Some players look more promising than others, and you might think, why bother paying all the ones who don't look as much like a sure thing? The reason is because you have no idea how it will turn out, and your most promising player might never make it, while some 17-year-old Dominican might get to the Hall of Fame. I think we can all draw the parallel here and have come to the same conclusion. We need more 17-year-old Dominicans making comedy. Freeze! Put your hands up! It's the Leaderboard. I'm happy this movie turned out well because there really is a lot riding on it to perform at least up to expectations, which after the opening weekend, things look good. The movie looks good, the pace is great, and both the writing and acting is good and consistent throughout. Caveat being, it is good at all those things for a comedy. It's not supposed to be Citizen Kane, and therefore it's not. The Leaderboard is about filmmaking, and that is not the number one priority here. If I had to give The Naked Gun a score, I would give it a 7.1. That is not it, however. For today, we talk about the Fast and the Furious Leaderboard. For those of you who are new, the Fast and Furious Leaderboard is a list that ranks the movies on pure enjoyment, because the latest Fast and the Furious will never win a Palme d'Or, but it could be a lot of frickin' fun. So, do me a favor, just throw out that 7.1. Did it for purely legal reasons, it doesn't count. I had a great time at this movie, and the laughs were fun and fast-paced. The movie nailed the tone, had a lot of serious performers in silly situations, and the chemistry between everyone in the movie, but particularly Liam Neeson and Pamela Anderson, was great. On the Fast and the Furious Leaderboard, I give Naked Gun an 8.2. It's not as instantly quotable as the original, but this movie has heart and makes you laugh. And now you go and tell all your friends to go see it so we can get the big studio comedy up on its feet once again. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you doing all the YouTube things you do between the liking and commenting and the subscribing. If you like comedies, I saw Friendship a while back, so if you want to catch that, it will be right here. I'll see you back here next week. Bye.